You know, we're living in a pretty good timeline when it comes to video game remasters, remakes, or even just simple re-releases. Games that I personally never thought would ever see the light of day again are getting a second lease on life thanks to either the game's original developers returning from the dead, as is the case for Argonaut and Terminal Reality, or the rights to these IPs getting bought by new studios and re-releasing them for fans, both new and old. Seriously, Lunar 1 and 2 both got re-released together in a new collection for modern consoles and PC in 2025. Who in the hell saw that one coming? I sure didn't. I know I definitely have more than a few ideas for games I'd like to see get a remaster, or a remake, or even just a simple re-release. Whether it be because the games have been inaccessible for literal decades, or if there was a good game already there that could benefit greatly from modern-day quality-of-life enhancements. So I thought it'd be fun to put together a few of my own suggestions for games I'd like to see get a remake, remaster, or re-release together in a video. But I don't think the title of Games I'd Like to See Get a Remake, Remaster, or Re-Release sounds super digestible for a title for a video, so welcome to my list of games I'd like to see again. This video is pretty simple. I'm going to be rattling off a few games and going into detail on what kind of re-release I'd like to see each game get. And this video was at least partially inspired by that Dreamlist thing that GOG.com is currently doing. The only major caveat to this video is that I'm only going to be talking about games that I myself have actually played. So if you don't see a game in this video that you would like to see get a re-release or a remake or what have you, it's only because I haven't played it myself. But hey, that's what the comment section is for. Feel free to light that up with your own suggestions. And because I know some people watching this might get a little disappointed if I don't at least mention it, I'll at least give an honorable mention to Rule of Rose and Haunting Ground. It would be cool to see them be made available to play legally again at a reasonable price. Okay, now with all of that out of the way, let's get into the video. Legend of Legaia on the PS1 is one of the most unique JRPGs I've ever played. As a matter of fact, this, alongside Pokemon Red, were what cemented me as a lifelong fan of JRPGs. Some kids had Final Fantasy growing up, some kids had Dragon Quest, some of the really awesome kids had Megami Tensei, but for me growing up, Legend of Legaia was my JRPG of choice when I wasn't playing Pokemon. What makes this particular game so unique is its combat system. While it is turn-based, and you do have the option of attacking like in a normal JRPG, the real star here is the ability to input commands like high, low, left, and right into combinations not too dissimilar to that of a fighting game, and what the game calls the tactical art system. And inputting the right kind of combination results in your character pulling off arts, or dedicated combination attacks, many of which result in additional hits being inflicted on enemies once activated. Such a unique combat system being placed on top of an already solid JRPG made for one of the most memorable games of my childhood. I was actually super tempted to do a standalone video on this game, had it not been for one thing. One major, unfortunate game-killing bug that I ran into while trying to emulate the game about a decade ago. And I think the 3 people who have played this game already know exactly where I'm headed with this. The game runs just fine for about 85% of the way through it, but in one of the more pivotal scenes that I won't spoil, the game will just stop. Like, it'll fade to black, and then just not load the next cutscene. Nearly 30 hours into this 35-hour RPG. And it isn't just on an emulator that this happens on either. I've heard claims of people trying to play the physical disc on a PS3 and running into the exact same issue. The only way to play the game and finish it is to play a physical disc on either a PS1 or a PS2, and also having a memory card so you can save. This effectively traps the game on PS1, rendering it all but inaccessible to those without original hardware to play it on. So, wouldn't it be cool if this game got a re-release? It doesn't even have to be a full remake with 4K graphics or anything. Just take what's already here and put it onto modern platforms. I loved this game's visual aesthetic and sound design so much that to remake it and replace it all would be super disappointing to me. And while we're at it, why not restore the XP and money rewards from battles, since the Western release of the game apparently reduced those from what you'd get in the Japanese version for some reason. I feel like this quality of life improvement would be absolutely essential for a re-release. Also, why not restore the Japanese post-battle voice clips that were cut from the Western release too? I don't understand the thought process behind this. Some of them are still there, but for whatever reason they cut like half of it. Yeah, I don't get it. You know what, go ahead and re-release the sequel too. I actually thought that game was pretty alright, just not anywhere near as memorable. Since we're on the topic of PS1 JRPGs, let's talk a little bit about The Legend of Dragoon. Now, I know that this game is readily available for purchase on the PS4 and 5 store as a $10 download already, but just hear me out for a second. How cool would it be if we got a full remake in a similar vein to the Final Fantasy VII remake? Except it'd be the whole entire original storyline and not like whatever the FF7 remake is doing with its story. Oh, and also the whole original game would be remade as one release and not like split up into a trilogy or anything. The dialogue scenes would all be voiced in-engine cutscenes, and hell, maybe even have the world map be fully explorable. I don't know, just a suggestion. As for the combat system, well, I think there's two ways that this could go for a theoretical remake. Should we keep the game turn-based with the addition system, a sort of QTE-style battle system used for your standard attacks, all as is? Or should we go in another direction and have the combat be in real time, standard attacks being used by regular button presses, and having additions be an option on the menu, where you can activate the QTE minigame at your leisure? A kind of like tactical mode in the Final Fantasy VII remake. Now, I know that this game getting remade is borderline impossible due to Sony Japan Studios shutting down, but remember, this whole video is just hypothetical, so just go with it. Now, with that said, which direction would you want to see for a hypothetical remake? Oh, the poor Alice series. What started as one of the most standout PC exclusives in the year 2000, we then got a sequel 11 years later that, from what I can gather, was pretty polarizing and made several retcons to the game's original plot. And then the publisher EA rejects a pitch for a third game that the original creator spent years building a design bible for, and then has the audacity to not sell or license out the IP to any other developer.
It's my IP to sit on and do nothing with!
That being said, despite how impossible it sounds, I think it'd be great if the original Alice got some kind of re-release. It honestly kind of needs one. As it currently stands, the OG PC version is not available for purchase on any digital storefront, and trying to get a copy from an abandonware website working on modern rigs requires jumping through some hoops. The game was actually made available for Xbox 360 and PS3 with the release of Madness Returns, but in the form of an online passcode. I don't even know offhand if it's possible to play that version without having already bought the sequel all the way back in 2011. You know, for being so protective of their IPs, EA sure doesn't like people having affordable access to them. Honestly, the more I think about it, the angrier it makes me, so let's just move on to the next game. Oh, you know what? Since we're on the topic of games with PC versions that are no longer accessible, in 2024, both the horror shooter The Suffering and its direct sequel, The Suffering Ties That Bind, were delisted from GOG.com for reasons known only to its current publisher, Warner Bros. Interactive. I guess Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav decided not enough people hated his guts, so he decided to pull this stunt. Yep, so as of this video, both of these games are currently unavailable to purchase legally anywhere. Not the PC version, and neither of the console versions are up on their respective digital storefronts. Can someone please license rescue these games and re-release them? Come on, people, someone please license rescue and re-release these games. Possibly while high. Ziggurat Games, I'm looking in your direction. Condemned Criminal Origins is one of my absolute favorite horror games, and it has one of my absolute favorite concepts. As Ethan Thomas, you're an FBI agent on the run after being framed for murder, and you must use your forensic skills to clear your name and catch the real killer, all while using whatever you can get your hands on as a weapon to defend yourself against the crazed vagrants who have now overrun the city. It sounds awesome, and it is awesome. This is a game that really delves into the aesthetic motifs of urban decay, but as an Xbox 360 launch title in 2005, the visuals, while certainly not bad for what it's trying to convey, have definitely aged a bit. And the forensic system, while a novel idea, is super limited. Something that the 2008 sequel, Condemned to Bloodshot, would overhaul dramatically. So what I was thinking is, what if this first game got a remake? Take the overhauled forensic system from Bloodshot, while keeping the first-person brawling more or less intact from the original, all while giving it a shiny new paint job that wouldn't look out of place from games today. Just think, this game's atmosphere in modern-day graphics would look insane. Also, you know what? That sequel never did get a PC port, so... yeah, even if it wasn't remembered as fondly as the original, I still think it's worth having a PC version with sharper graphics and smoother frame rate. And the option to turn off certain visual effects. Ugh. I'm really happy that they remastered The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. Seeing the very first Xbox 360 game that I ever played in shiny new graphics is certainly a treat. Though I think Bethesda now knows that this opens the floodgates for people begging for remasters of some of their other games. And here I am to suggest one such remaster. Personally, I think it would be really cool to see an Oblivion-style remaster of Fallout 3. Taking the core gameplay that I already love personally, and giving it a major visual facelift like they did with the Oblivion remaster, and the improved gunplay of Starfield. Yeah, I like Starfield, bitch, and what? I love Starfield. Now, I know some of you might be going, Fallout 3 remaster, but no New Vegas remaster? Dude, what's wrong with you? To that, I respond with, both. Both would be good. Heading back over to the PS1 for a spell, Alundra was essentially the original PlayStation's answer to The Legend of Zelda. Before it went 3D, that is. This game is still gorgeous, even after almost 30 years later, and is simply a rock-solid action RPG in its own right. While published by Sony in Japan, it was brought stateside by Working Designs, the same studio that brought us the Lunar games. And you can tell it's a Working Designs property thanks to that infamous Working Designs localization. The last time this game was made legally available for purchase was on the PS3 store. And the storefronts on the PSP and Vita have since shut down, so hopefully your PS3 still works. Since Gung Ho Entertainment already licensed, rescued, and remastered Lunar, maybe soon they could do the same thing for Alundra? All that the game could really use is returning the game's difficulty back down to that of the original Japanese release. Working Designs saw fit to increase the amount of hits you have to land on an enemy to take them out, so lowering it back down to that of the Japanese version is all that game really needs. That and maybe a new localization that's not so much a product of its time. So, the next game I have listed on here that I think would benefit heavily from a full-blown remake would be Primal. So, I just did a whole 2.5 hour long video on Primal, and I gave my thoughts on this particular talking point at the end of it, so I'll try not to repeat myself too much here. The original Primal was a very ambitious game for its time, one that placed a very heavy emphasis on storytelling and world building, not unlike the games that Sony would publish in the decades preceding it. In Primal's attempt to make big, sprawling worlds to traverse, I frequently ran into the problem of constantly getting lost, and the in-game map not being of very much help sometimes. And unfortunately, I ran into that problem early. I'd hate for a game with such lovable characters like Jen and Scree, and the incredible creature designs, to be lost forever in a game that didn't quite reach its full potential. So, I personally suggest a full remake of this game. Take the same characters and the same story, but improve the gameplay so players aren't constantly getting lost, and maybe make the combat just a little bit more robust. I think that would be really cool, and if that does well, whoever takes over the remake could implement the ideas for a sequel that the original developers had, and use them as a jumping-off point for a hypothetical sequel. There is something that could be said about remaking games that had good ideas, but didn't quite execute them in the best ways. What if, instead of only remaking good games, studios remade average or below-average games into something truly special? Honestly, I think there's a whole untapped market here for video game remakes. Okay, now this next one still kind of makes me mad, because it's been almost a full 20 years, and us North Americans still don't have a way to legally play Siren 2. Sony was kind enough to put the first game on the PlayStation Store, but not the sequel, the one people say is arguably the best in the series. Honestly, I feel like it'd be easier than ever to do it now, since they don't have to press discs or print instruction manuals or create plastic cases for it. Just throw the ISO file onto the storefront, charge like $10 for it, and that's it, you're done. I just feel like Sony has had chances to sell the game digitally throughout the course of the PS3 and PS4's lifespans, and they just decided not to. And unfortunately, I don't see that changing anytime soon. Look, all I'm saying is, if they did decide to start selling Siren 2 on the PS Store, then that would be a day one purchase for me. Now, don't get me wrong, I am glad that I have a powerful enough PC that I can just emulate Siren 2 now, but I shouldn't have had to do that. I should have been able to play it on my PS2 when it came out in 2006. Or now on my PS4 or my PS5 if Sony would just port it like they did the original. Not to mention there's a lot of PlayStation owners that don't have access to really high-end PCs that can do emulation really well. Sony, what are you doing? Bloodborne. The only Souls-like game that I've put any kind of real time into. Though, I will admit I never made it very far into this game. I got up to Father Gascoigne, got my shit absolutely wrecked, and just never got around to picking it up again. This was in 2015, by the way. Death really waits for you around every corner in this game, and sometimes it can be a bit daunting. Still love the game, though. Its atmosphere, creature designs, it's all great. I honestly really need to dive back into it and try actually finishing it. I have this game on the list because I hear the call from fans for a remaster of this game running at 60 frames per second, and I'm inclined to agree. I think it'd be great if this game got that remaster in an official capacity, and I'm honestly kind of surprised it hasn't already, given Sony's long-standing fetish for remasters. Come on, Sony, give the people what they want. Since we got a remake of that one SpongeBob game everyone really liked, I guess this means that remakes of licensed games are not off the table. And one that I'm surprised we haven't seen yet is a remake, or really any kind of re-release, of The Simpsons Hit and Run. Like, dude, this game is a lot of fun. It's a more family-friendly Grand Theft Auto with the most enduring animated sitcom ever made. A remake, or a remaster, or even a simple port of this thing to modern consoles and PC would print shmoney. If they decide to go the remake route, they could open up Springfield even more and make it even bigger and with more references to the show. The only thing I'm not so sure about is that in the original, Apu was a playable character and he had his own set of missions. Considering that the show pretty much likes to pretend he doesn't exist anymore, would a remake just skip everything with him in it? If the game reused the audio files from the original, do they just cut him out? Or do they just say screw it and leave him in? Hell, a re-release would be interesting just to see how they'd handle Apu being there. But yeah, some kind of re-release would be awesome, and it's really surprising that they haven't tried to do one yet, considering that many people, myself included, consider it the best Simpsons game. I think EA still holds the rights to publish Simpsons games though, so I don't see them budging. Deadhead Fred is one of the most unique games on the PSP, and it's also one of the funniest damn games I've ever played.
Normally, when I have a customer who's less than stunning, I recommend a face job. You need a head job.
Look, Elle, sweetheart, that's a super nice offer, it is. But we just met.
Oh, good lord. Is that all you men ever think about?
It has some of the best writing in a video game. Good enough to have won an award from the Writers Guild of America, no less. And some really rock-solid voice acting.
I got a little sidetracked, and FYI, next time you tell somebody to come for a visit, you might want to provide a few more details about the crazy voodoo bitch on guard duty at the mausoleum.
The last time that this game was made legally available was on the PS Vita store, and since that's dead now, well, you probably know where I'm going with this. A simple re-release on modern consoles and PC would be enough for me personally, but I also wouldn't say no to a remaster or even a full-blown remake. Something that does up the graphics a bit to make the environments and character designs really pop. The one area that I think the game could really use the most retooling is the combat system. It's super basic and maybe even a bit repetitive, so if whoever snags the rights to this game decides to go the remake route, they could maybe make the combat a little bit more substantial. However one would want to do it, it'd just be great to see this game get a second shot. The video game space could easily do with more John C. McGinley.
What the fuck? What have you done to me?
Metal Arm's Glitch in the System. Oh man, this was a fun little run and gun. Released originally in 2003 on the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox, Metal Arms has you playing a little mining robot named Glitch as you blast your way through a planet inhabited entirely by robots. The gameplay was simple, but it was also a lot of fun. Easily one of the most creative and solidly made third-person shooters of the 6th console generation. This was a game I think a lot of people missed out on, so as far as what kind of re-release I would like to see for this game, I think a remaster with the original art style intact and just up-resing the graphics would suffice. If they really want to go nuts with it, maybe even bring back the multiplayer modes and maybe even add online play for them. Metal Arms was developed by Swingin' Ape Studios, who shortly after releasing this game would be bought out by Blizzard, which means ultimately they and the IP rights to this game are now owned by Activision. So I don't know how likely a re-release of this game in particular would be, but it would be cool for people to have a way to legally play this game again. Hopefully with a few extra tweaks made to the presentation and maybe even online play. Alright, so this last one, I'll admit, is very self-indulgent on my part. But then again, this whole video is self-indulgent, so why not? But you know what game I would love to see get a re-release?
One Piece!
Unlimited adventure!
Yeah, I'm talking about One Piece again on this channel. Buckle up. Originally released on the Nintendo Wii in 2007 and early 2008 for English-speaking territories, One Piece Unlimited Adventure has a very special place in my heart. It's my favorite anime licensed game for a few reasons. I find the overall gameplay to be very fun and addictive, the characters are all fun to control, and the American release of the game is sort of a time capsule for the One Piece anime license. It was released in January 2008 over here in the States. Just a few months before, the Funimation dub had started airing on TV, and many of the characters that appeared in this game hadn't been permanently cast yet. So my excitement for the future of the One Piece anime dub was at an all-time high. Let's just ignore the fact that the dub would be removed from television just 2 months after this game came out. Shh. And that's sort of what added novelty to this game for me. It was the first, and sadly last, One Piece game to have English voice acting from the new cast. It truly was the cherry on top of what I already considered a fun game. Considering that the series has had a 2-year time skip in the time that this game came out, and that nearly every other One Piece video game takes place after that, it's super unlikely that this game would ever get a re-release. But I think it should. Just replace the Wiimote waggle that was needed for certain actions with a simple button press, and you're done. And while you're at it, how about they re-release the Unlimited Cruise games that never got released in North America? I was so disappointed when those games never got released over here. I was dying to play them. And hey, since I'm going full self-indulgent mode here, let's do something that One Piece games don't do anymore and add English voice acting. The dub of the anime has a dedicated English dub cast, and has so for close to 2 decades now, so use them. Look, Bandai Namco, I know that recording English voice acting is expensive, but I mean, you guys can afford it. You can do it for every single Dragon Ball game that comes out, and you don't even have to look too far for the actors for One Piece. They're the same actors, just freaking do it. Okay, I think it's probably a good idea to go ahead and stop right here. I didn't want this video going on for too terribly long, so there's a very likely chance there will be a follow-up video to this sometime in the future. That'll at least give me time to record more footage for other games I wasn't able to include on this list. Who knows, maybe we'll get lucky and some of the games that I listed here actually will get some kind of re-release and this video will become dated. I won't even complain if that happens. Now, I want to hear from you. What are some games that you would like to see get re-released? Be a remaster, a full remake, or even a simple port to modern console and PC. Go ahead and light up that comment section. I want to hear what you all come up with. And with that, thanks for checking this video out, and I'll be back soon-ish with the next one.